Local programming on KRWG Public Media made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to Fronteras at Changing America. I'm Anthony Moreno. Today we discuss food insecurity and the impact it has on folks in New Mexico. Please welcome Mag Strittmatter, President and CEO of Roadrunner Food Bank. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for the opportunity.
If we could start off by talking about how food banks actually work in New Mexico to give our audience an idea.
Perfect. Roadrunner Food Bank, which is located, our warehouse is located in Albuquerque, is the Feeding America member in New Mexico. And how it works to address all of the hunger issues across all 33 counties is that we partner with 4 smaller regional food banks that cover mostly the northern part of the state. There's one community pantry that's in Gallup. We have Echo that is located in Farmington, Food Depot located in Santa Fe, and then Food Bank of Eastern New Mexico, which is in Clovis. So those regional smaller food banks work, they're contracted with us so that they work with their assigned communities and assigned counties, and we provide food to them, and then they in turn work with their agency partners throughout that assigned service area.
So before that really happens, I mean, how do you get the food? How is it brought to you by different manufacturers or stores?
And then we, so those are 17 of the northern counties, and then we do direct service with the 16 remaining counties. Our responsibility as a food bank is to source and identify and acquire food from a variety of different sources. Just like you said, it could be rescued food that comes through partnerships that are on a national level through Feeding America, that are the Walmarts, the Kroger grocery chain, Costco's, those specific relationships that are on a national level that as a Feeding America food bank, we have first access to whatever rescue product they have. And in outlying areas that we can't go to, for example, we couldn't come down to Las Cruces every day to do that rescue. We assign those food pickups to agencies that we partner with. And then in all cases, we report pounds. They report pounds to us, then we report them back up to Feeding America. But food rescue is a very big and important one. We also have product that comes to us from manufacturers. There's General Mills that's located in New Mexico. If they make the wrong, have a mix-up in the batch that they're making of cereal, then those totes of cereal that they can't use for their retail line then would be donated to us, and then we break that product down and share it out amongst our network in the state.
What about farmers?
Farmers and growers, we're always looking to find and create and expand relationships with farmers and growers so that we could have natural, local grown product that we can get, as they say, from farm to table, which is as quick as we can. So through a variety of different streams, we're always working to expand our reach and our connection.
Now, to get the food to the different agencies and places you are working with, you must rely heavily on really reliable transportation. Could you tell me a little bit about, do you have like a fleet of trucks that are really going from place to place every day?
We use semis, so tractor trailers to transport, and so that way with our routing, we use routing software to help us understand what different communities we're going to be driving to that day. So we have 13 tractors and trailers that are on the road every single day, going in different directions and doing different things. And so that's a way for us to, if we're doing a route down to, like we come to Las Cruces every day, so we can load that tractor and trailer to accommodate whatever deliveries there are along the way. So that we can address and serve all of the different partners that we have and be as efficient as possible with that. But transportation is a huge, because I moved here from Colorado and I thought Colorado was a big state till I got here, and being the 5th largest geographic state in the country, there's a lot of ground to cover, and for us, making sure that the product gets to where it needs to go on time in a very food safety conscious manner is very, very important to us.
How much do you pay attention to the cost of fuel?
Constantly. It's always a factor that when we budget, we do our budgeting at the beginning of a fiscal year. We always do our best guess. We always guess we'll over guess in some cases about having the price be a little higher so that we can be surprised if it is a little lower. But fuel is a huge part of our budget, and so that we're constantly monitoring that.
Many people volunteer for Roadrunner Food Bank. How important is the volunteer to your organization?
It's amazingly important because we get such quantities of food that come in. For example, when we do the food rescue, often those materials will have to, the product has to be sifted through and sorted to make sure that it is in usable condition, and that building pallets of product that can go to agencies is a big part of what our volunteers do. So the amount of hours that we receive every year is equivalent to about half of our entire workforce. So they add a tremendous resource to us, so that as a nonprofit, we're able to take that dollar that someone is donating to us and we're stretching it as far as we can to get the most out of it so that we can serve the communities that need that help.
You kind of just segued into what I want to talk about next is donations and people supporting Roadrunner Food Bank. How important are donor dollars to your mission?
It's the fuel to the engine. It really is. As far as the dollars that it takes for us to be able to have the staff on hand, to be able to have the warehouse facility that we do have. We operate a 167,000 square foot facility, so to light, cool it, heat it, whatever it needs to maintain it takes a lot of resource. To have the tractor trailers in a travel-ready state at all times, and to hire the drivers that are all CDL, commercial drivers licensed drivers, because that's a very competitive field right now, so we're having to be as competitive as we can in our hiring so that we can continue to have that qualified driver behind the wheel every single day that's going out into the communities and to provide the product. And then to just be able to access, acquire, and have the food available. Last fiscal year, we distributed about 38 million pounds of food across the entire state of New Mexico. So that in many cases costs dollars. Whether we're getting donated loads of product, we still have to pay the freight to get it to us, or we have to go out and actually place orders with manufacturers for products so that we have meals that we can actually get out to our community agencies to distribute to their communities.
Well, you're not the only agency that really is counting on donor dollars. I imagine that you have a lot of partners
Absolutely.
that you're working with that are focusing on that as well. What happens with one of your partners, perhaps in like a rural community in New Mexico, isn't able to continue to go on? How do you make that service still happen in those communities?
You know, that's something that we're seeing more and more of, especially with the retiring of the greatest generation and the silent generation. That cadre of volunteers that in some cases perhaps one person in the household worked and the other didn't, and so the volunteering was an important part of their giving back to community. And as they're retiring out, we're noticing that there's a drop off in some of the capacity that some of these agencies have, and especially more rural and more isolated communities, to finding the people that haven't yet retired, the baby boomers, that can actually provide support in sweat equity to keep that mission going. So what we do is we are in contact with our agencies, and we want to know not only what kind of food do you need, what do you need to be able to serve your community, but what type of other supports can Roadrunner provide in your community so that we can help you help your community, because that, in addition to sourcing food, is another big responsibility of a food bank under the Feeding America banner.
I was looking at some data from Feeding America and from Roadrunner Food Bank, and in 2016, dealing with food insecurity in New Mexico, it said 15% of adults in New Mexico are food insecure in our county here in Doña Ana County. Over 22,900 are food insecure. When I look at those numbers, I'm kind of taken back a little bit, especially I don't think it's a secret that anybody knows New Mexico is a state living in poverty, and this is data from 3 years ago. Right. So, I mean, do you have a beat on the pulse now, what's happening right now, and how many people are really living food insecure every single day?
Well, in the spring, the Kids Count survey came out, and according to that, as far as it comes to the issues and needs around children, New Mexico is now 50th in the country for childhood hunger, and overall we're 6. So 1 in 4 children in New Mexico are at risk of food insecurity. 1 in 6 adults overall are at risk for food insecurity. So it is a really hard balance in order for a state that does have a high level of poverty to have the ability for individuals, families, to be able to cobble together one or multiple jobs. In most cases, the majority of the folks that we serve are employed, so they're trying to make ends meet, but at the end of the month, something falls short, and so often it is the budget around food for them. So our availability and our capacity to be able to address that need through our agency partners is critical.
What's the ripple effect when a child in New Mexico is living in a situation where they are food insecure?
Well, it is an emotional drain on them because, I always think about going to bed at night. How many parents are going to bed, or let's say, how many children are going to bed hungry? And then how many parents are going to bed that same night not knowing where the next meals are going to come from in the next several days for their kids and themselves. So it puts a lot of emotional strain on that. For children, when you're talking about kids in school, kids in learning, not having proper access to healthy, nutritious foods really impedes their ability to learn. And as we're trying to foster and raise children and educate future leaders in our communities, that hunger issue is a real impediment that really slows down the ability for people to learn or to retain anything. How can you concentrate in school if you're hungry?
This summer, the Trump administration proposed changes with SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. They wanted to change what they said is called a broad-based eligibility, which allows states to offer SNAP eligibility to households if they're getting temporary assistance, the temporary assistance for needing families.
Right.
It's been reported that this could affect around 3 million people across the country. What kind of impact would that have in New Mexico if these changes were made?
It would be like playing Jenga, where you're taking one block, pulling blocks that are helping to support a household or family, and taking those blocks out underneath those families. This is a means for them to survive in many cases, having access to SNAP benefits. But by changing restricting the flexibility of the eligibility guidelines will really hamper so many communities, and it'll take a very important lifeline for many families, because these are limited benefits that people get through SNAP. And the majority of people who receive SNAP benefits are employed. And so it's taking one plank that will help a family, that could very well help a family make it through another month, and just taking it away and not having else in its replace. Because it's not as though people can go out and get another job. In many cases, people are working 1 or in some cases 2 or 3 jobs just to manage and try to hold things together. So this would be a very, very detrimental occurrence if that should take place.
There are many students in New Mexico that depend on free lunches at school for their main meals of the day, their main healthy meals, I should say, of the day. Do you see this being jeopardized in any way in the near future?
Well, there's some possible legislation that may impact the level of the free and reduced lunch too.
Let's talk about that.
So, I mean, when you think about what it takes to allow and help a child to be really engaged in their learning every day, having access to food shouldn't be a luxury. It should just be something that happens. If those eligibility requirements are changed, it could also be very harmful for families, because how are they're already in a rough place because they have gone through the eligibility process to apply and be enrolled in the free and reduced lunch program, but it will then take away a type of a safety net that at least when the kids are in school 9 months out of the year, they know that they're getting access to a good lunch that they in other times could not afford to provide for them.
How does food insecurity really affect healthcare and the cost of healthcare? I was looking at a data tool provided by Feeding America and Roadrunner Food Bank, where it cited that in New Mexico, it costs the average person around $173 per person. This is data from 2016, I believe, in healthcare costs because of food insecurity in our state. How can you kind of connect the dots for me, and how does that happen?
You cannot separate hunger and health, because if you're not nutritionally ingesting the types of foods that you need to maintain, to rediscover health or maintain your health, there will be a consequence to that, one way or the other. So that there's a direct corollary between people that are suffering with hypertension, diabetes, and heart disease, that if they don't have appropriate access to appropriate healthy foods, those conditions will only will be exacerbated. And so that means that there is that cost to them. And the latest statistics is that on an annual basis, every adult who is food insecure could expense up to $1,500 over that year in costs related to health care. So those are $1,500 that, where's that going to come from? You can't get blood from a turnip. So that is a reality that we see, and more food banks and Feeding America have become really, really conscious of how that corollary is, how that tether is between health and hunger, and how can the food banking world become a real advocate and partner with the healthcare industry to raise awareness around that, and then be engaged in ways to help support programming that would help low-income individuals who are suffering from health issues.
You mentioned hypertension, high blood pressure, diabetes. For adults, what about seniors? What about older Americans? How are things looking?
We talk along the spectrum of children and seniors, the two most vulnerable populations. With seniors, if you're at home and you're living in your house at home as a senior, if you do apply for food stamps, the way the calculations would run, you would get very little each month in the way of food stamp support. So there's a real gap around how we're addressing hunger issues with the senior population. So the way that we address it between children and seniors is that we have 2 feeding programs, one for each. For the kids, it's the Childhood Hunger Initiative, and that's where we partner with an excess of just under 100 different schools across the state, that we either provide and support a mobile food pantry that comes to the school location, where the kids and the parents can come, and it's like a farmer's market set up. They can come and select upwards of 30 to 50 pounds of food, which half of that are fruits and vegetables. Or another option is that we can help them support a food pantry in the school location itself, so a more fixed environment. So that's the Child Hunger Initiative, that we're really focusing on connecting food to not just the kids, because years back it was the backpack program that was very popular. Kids would take the backpack home on Friday with some snacks and food to get them through till the weekend, until we started realizing that the whole family was needing help out of that backpack, and so we had to expand that program. So that's how we got to this, the Hunger Initiative around the mobiles, going into the different schools. On the other end of the spectrum, we do something very similar with seniors. We call it the the SHE program, which is Senior Hunger Initiative, where we work with community centers, senior housing communities, and actually bring the product on site there so that seniors can have access to healthy, nutritious food that will be helpful for them.
How do you see the mobile market really making a difference in New Mexico when so many people are living in rural areas that many may consider food deserts?
New Mexico was one of the first, and Roadrunner Food Bank was one of the first Feeding America organizations to actually go in this direction. In fact, we as an organization have the most mobiles of any other food bank in the country. The reason being is because we're such a big state, and we have so much territory to cover. Our fleet will travel upwards of 600,000 miles. That's to the moon and back this year, so that we can reach these smaller communities, like down here in the southern part of the state, Doña Ana County, over to Grant County, so that we could reach Silver City, that we could reach Alamogordo, so that we could get to all of these different communities that need our help and support, over to Deming and Lordsburg. So there's the best and the most efficient way that is helpful for the recipient, because we always want to think of the end user who is waiting in line at a location or a site, and know that on Wednesday at 10 a.m. that truck is going to be here and I'm going to be able to access food. So for us, the mobiles have been a model for us to follow, because we could reach the greater number of people in a more cost-efficient and effective manner.
Is there a stereotype that we kind of need to get over to understand how many people are needing assistance to avoid food insecurity in our state? Can you kind of tell me, like, give a profile of who is needing assistance? I think maybe some people may be surprised at how many folks and where their positions are actually serving in as professionals need food assistance in New Mexico.
I think a great example of that was the government shutdown that happened at the end of last year. There were so many families that were impacted here in New Mexico because of the fact that they had a paycheck or two paychecks to get them through an occurrence that took far longer than that. And so we did mobiles for federal employees so that we could help them. And so most people don't think, well, they have a job, they're doing fine. Well, in many cases, the cost of living, the cost of utilities, all of those things add up. And if you take one of those little building blocks out, having your regular paycheck, how many weeks can a family go without needing some type of support? So that's one example. And another example, it's not uncommon for us to hear anecdotally from participants who come to our mobile food banks that they're working at a local retailer. Or they just lost their job because of a cutback, which is something we always have to be concerned about. When will industry pull back on employment and have folks that will be without work? So it's more common than what people would think. And I know that by just going to the mobile food banks and other agencies that are our incredible partners, we hear over and over and over again that it's when we talk about those people are us, because in many cases it takes one health issue that will just take the legs out from underneath you as far as having stability in your household. It's not something that people think that people aren't trying to make their lives work.
How are we doing in New Mexico with getting food assistance to people in regards to from the moment they apply for assistance? I know that's been an issue in the past.
It has, and I think the system is getting better, and they're processing. But over the years, there have been some within the state. There have been some cutbacks in those positions that haven't yet been restored. So when you have fewer people helping to process those applications, it does slow down the time that it takes to get someone going and receiving the benefits. But I know that there's every effort in Santa Fe to get people who are enrolling into these programs on the programs.
Now, we only have a couple minutes left, but I want to give an opportunity for you to let our audience know how they can help folks who are in need, help Roadrunner Food Bank and the agencies here in our area.
We work with just under 400 different agencies in those 16 counties that I mentioned. And you know, some of the wonderful, they're just all wonderful. No matter the locale that they're in, they're doing the rubber hit the road work every single day. So I would always encourage to anyone who's watching to, if you can support Roadrunner Food Bank, that would be wonderful. But always keep in mind the local agencies, because hunger is local, and we work our very best to partner with them. But if you can give of your resource, your cash, to the organizations or to Roadrunner Food Bank, if you can volunteer on a local level, if you have the time available, that is immensely helpful to volunteer. If you can advocate, that's a wonderful way that people can help out, because hunger is an issue that hasn't gone away. If it was simple to solve, we would have done this a long time ago. But it is an issue that is here, and that we are putting our shoulder to the wheel to resolve it. But the more people we could get to be of support in an advocacy capacity would be very helpful. So there are multiple ways for people to get engaged. And of course, our website, you could go on there and find a way to make either your time of treasure or your gifts of support.
Mag, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And we want to thank you for joining us on Fronteras at Changing America. I'm Anthony Moreno.